Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Jennifer Kish in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on through November 10th. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to spotlight Tina's thing. So tell us about yourself and your show.
I grew up in a household with parents who were artists. So my father was a painter, and my mother also studied art. They met in art school. Art was a big part of my life growing up. I had three siblings, and all but one of them has dabbled in the arts to some extent. So I think that's part of our early training and the encouragement from my parents. I did not go to art school, but I did study architecture first at MIT and then at Yale University. So, as you see on the wall here, recently I've started um, painting buildings, and buildings that I seem to love the most are barns. Something about the sort of melancholy of barns, how their usefulness is kind of past, and no one really needs them anymore, but they're still beautiful and iconic structures. I've really been interested in painting some of the barns near where I live in New Hope, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County. And this is one in Yardley, Pennsylvania. Just a beautiful complex. It has several barn buildings that I've painted. This next one is the house of a friend of mine. It's an old farmhouse that she grew up in, and she's like the last descendant of her family. She's gotten her farmhouse preserved on the list of historic places, but it's just kind of sad that she's the last of her generation and is living out her old age in her beautiful old farmhouse.
This in Ohio?
Yes, in Ohio. So something about the sadness and the beauty these buildings really appeals to me. So that's part of my interest in painting them, is to preserve them in both respects, just the beauty of them and the sadness. This was an old abandoned barn in upstate New York. Huge, elegant old structure, but totally abandoned now. So I studied architecture and worked as an architect, and then I went into reinsurance of all things using my mathematics background. And then after 20 or so years, I retired and started painting, my first love, I guess you could say. And I've never really looked back. So I'm a full-time painter now. It's mostly interested in landscapes around the area where I live. I do paint landscapes from my travels also. Just something, it's hard to say what appeals to me about certain landscapes, but I think it is a combination of beauty and with just a touch of sadness. Something about their delicacy and how easily landscapes are ruined or cease to exist in the way that I would like to remember them. All my paintings are oil up to this point in time. These two are from Colorado, near where my brother lives in Superior, Colorado. Just the beauty of the mountains.
So Jennifer, do you make photo references or drawings, or how do you create these?
I do draw on site. Um, but it's very difficult for me to paint while I'm traveling, and also just oil painting requires a lot of stuff that you need to take with you. So generally I just sketch on site and then I paint back in my studio. This is one of my favorite paintings. It's a lake in Ohio, part of the Cuyahoga River that was dammed probably 70 years ago, and they're currently in the process of removing the dam. So the lake will disappear, but it's such a beautiful, still spot. So in a way, this is preserving that view, which will never be seen after this. Although removing the dam, I think, is good. That lets the river return to its natural state, but the lake will no longer exist. And this one is primarily made up. I was trying to capture the woods below my house, but I added that little lake that you see in the foreground. It's trees in the mist, I think, just one of those beautiful foggy days along the Delaware River.
So your paintings are depopulated for the most part.
For the most part, yes. Um, I just have never been interested in painting people. I don't know why that is, but never tried to really paint portraits or figures for that matter. I have taken a lot of light drawing classes, so it's possible that I may add them in the future, but so far I really haven't wanted to, partly because it makes the painting then of a time, based on the clothing and the people in the painting. Whereas I kind of like them to be, I don't know, timeless or mysterious as to the time. Is it now, or is it 200 years ago, or 1,000 years ago?
Are there artists that you think about when you're painting? I mean, that you
I
have an
think
affinity for?
I think mainly my father's paintings. I have a lot of them in the house. So I've never been far from them. And he also painted landscapes, although mine are much different than his. Um, so he's probably the primary source. Not that I concentrate on his paintings, but they're, I think, so much part of me that I can't help but sort of paint in a similar way. Not, I don't know if you would notice if you saw his paintings and mine that we were related, but I think they're always in the back of my mind somewhere.
And he was a professional painter.
Yes, yes. And these are sort of atmospheric landscapes, I would call them. I try to hope that they generate a emotion in the viewer or a feeling. This one is sort of a dark, misty, slightly maybe sinister landscape, um, which is based on things I see in one of my favorite spots, which is Scotland, in the Highlands. Just the beautiful mist and kind of darkness and moodiness of the landscape there really appeals to me. And this is a scene near my house, just a river that had some interesting reflections. not far from where I live. It's a beautiful area along the Delaware here. Trees and water and light, not too many people.
So you walk through there regularly.
Yes, all the time. And these are a bunch of paintings that I did recently where I'm playing with the layering of color. You can kind of see where the underlying colors are kind of moving to the surface as I sort of paint lightly over them. Um, Something I learned from Anthony in his layering class. So I really um, love the way it makes the paintings richer and more varied in their color and just soft, I think.
That's Anthony Ciambella.
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely have a rich, deep sense of color and tone, which adds to their sort of mysterious quality. They seem like they could be a memory of a landscape as well as an image of a landscape.
Yes. That's really in essence what I'm striving for. I don't want you to think of the actual place they came from, but to remind you of something in your past that you've seen or remember. And I think it really helps, like when you get up close to the painting, to see all these variations in color that
And
come out.
had you painted more directly prior to this?
Well, when I first was painting a lot, I was interested in more of it's hard to describe, a graphic painting. I wanted to do like sharp lines and bright colors. But as I've progressed, I think I've been more interested in the nuances of color and shading. Um, so that's, I think it's a richer view than my prior paintings, which were fairly straightforward and almost more abstract compositions.
When you also lived in Bermuda for some
Yes,
time.
I think
So
that
that,
probably influenced me, the bright light and color there, as opposed to the mistiness and cloudiness along the Delaware. And the reflections that you see here are just beautiful. The sky reflecting on the water and the trees reflecting on the water.
yeah, so you really captured it. It's really well done.
Thank you.
The subtle variations of tone and color.
Yes, my colors are a lot muted in this show compared to my last one. So
So do you feel it's due to the landscape itself or your technique or both or
I think both. The landscape inspired me to change my technique, I would probably say. Um, yeah, the color is so different here compared to Bermuda. I had to come up with a new way to paint it so that I felt like I was capturing its essence.
yeah, it's amazing how that change of scene will do that. It affects your art.
Yep, it's true. Georgia O'Keeffe moved out to the desert. I think that's because she needed that sort of color. I guess these are my monotone landscapes, because a lot of the color here in the winter is this sort of monotone, but it doesn't mean that it's less beautiful. It's just a very quiet beauty.
Mm-hmm.
I love this one because I just imagine it's a haven for birds and fish.
It's called Wetlands.
Yes. A few houses out there in the distance, but not disturbing anything. And this is another one I'm working on my reflections and working on my underpainting. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm not a big fan of green, but I think this one, because it's kind of these two, because they have a lot of warmth in the green.
Yes, it's very subtle.
So
Well, it's a wonderful show, Jennifer.
thank you. Thank you.
And the show is up through November 10th. We hope people come and see it. And everything is also available on our website, ceruleanarts.com. So thanks again for being here and have a great night.
Thank you.